How come everybody that's on a diet is like in the morning they're motivated about it? By the time they go to their job and all of that, and they're on the driveway back from home, stuck in the traffic, screaming at the world, got road rage and all this shit, they end up in Kentucky. Every single time they end up in Kentucky. They do.
Just accidentally.
You know?
It's like you're just yelling at the guy who cut you off, and then you're like, ah! Can I please have a cinnamon button?
3, 2, 1. All right, guys, we're at episode 20 now. That's a big milestone, I feel like. Okay.
Let's go, boys. Let's go, boys. Episode 20. How many people make it?
Episode 20.
Almost every single podcast.
Huh?
Almost every single podcast, we find an excuse to clap.
We have to.
We've got to bring the energy.
Just fill that awkward silence after an intro with a clap.
No, but 20 episodes. That's impressive.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Not bad, boys.
So today we're talking about how you only live once. So I'll get Dylan to do the explanation for the potty today.
Yeah, so we're talking about the YOLO culture. You know, this is like big amongst like the younger generation. You know, they're always saying like, yo, you only live once, so you got to live in the moment and all of that.
Yeah.
Which there seems to be a lot of truth there. You do want to live in the moment, but you also want to think about your future. And that's what we're big believers on. We're always focusing on what do we truly want. Everybody's saying like, oh, I just want to live in the moment. I want to have fun on the weekends, party and do all of this stuff. And they may think they want that, but do they actually truly want that? I feel like humans, they always do what they want, but they don't understand what they want all the time. So they feel like they want to have all this fun on the weekends and do all of this stuff. But if they really did the deep down thinking and really thought about their long life goals and all of that stuff and where they want to be in the future, does that actually add up? Yes or no? And after they do that thinking, they might come to realize like what we're all about is like, we want to sacrifice the present so we can have a really, really awesome future. And we always use, you know, you only live once as well. But we think of it, you know, in a different way. You know, we're thinking with the end in mind. Hey, you're only going to live once, so you got one life. You better make the most of it. And we're talking about you want to have like what is your total amount of fun, quality of life, and impact that you can have in your, you know, your whole entire life, not just what you can do now for yourself today. And even in that sense, you know, we talk about all the time saying, hey, if your goal is to have as much fun as possible, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you switch it around and focus a lot on like success, knowledge, investing and all of that, then what do we always say? If you work really hard for like 5 years, that can set up your whole life. You can buy back all your time. And if you do this while you're young, you know, around 18, 19, 20, by 25, you know, you have your whole entire life ahead of you and you have so much time. So yeah, it's have you guys ever been like caught up in that mindset? Do you remember feeling the effects of it?
Oh, for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. It gets you. It's that like sheep mentality kind of thing, where it's just like everything around you is happening that way, so it's just you go and do that thing. Or you just, like you said, like you were saying before, like you don't think about, you know, the 30, 40, 50 years to come. You think about the 6 months, a year ahead of you, and you're like, oh, I just want to be having heaps of fun. I just want to be doing all this kind of thing, all these kinds of things, and I don't want to miss out on all of these things with my friends and all that kind of crap.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a quality of fun is a big thing for me. Like, if you sacrifice in the beginning, then the quality of fun, like what you're actually doing, is a hell of a lot funner than what you would be doing at that time.
Yeah, if you're focusing on the long term, doing it properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there something about it like how we've gone to school for so long, we've been doing all this boring stuff, and then maybe it's like to get it out of our system, we just want to party and like let loose and all of this stuff. Do you reckon there's a bit of that in there?
I think
For sure, man.
Yeah,
For
I'm my
sure.
oldest in the family, like the oldest kid in my family, and I think a lot of like my friends at the time would feel the same. Where it was a little bit of a rebellion thing against. My parents would say you can't do that all the time. Like you can't go out and drink, you can't go out and party, you have to study, etc., etc., etc. And there's a little bit of that, not to the extent of that you boys have felt, but you always want to do the opposite of what someone's telling you a majority of the time. So it's like, if you're being compressed all the time, you just want to break free and just do something, and that's an easy outlet, or like maybe the most obvious outlet. Would you guys agree?
Yeah. Maybe that's the point, that we should stop telling people to get wealthy. We should tell them to get poor. They want to tell them the opposite. And all of a sudden we create all these millionaires. Yeah. And then we say, oh, spend it on yourself. And they start donating.
That's
Yeah,
not
we found the hack, boys.
Crack the code.
Yeah, I think for me it was more I just wanted to hang out with my friends and just that was my environment at the time, like just go out and party, and
Yeah.
that was the only type of fun we knew.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't think you're doing the wrong thing in the beginning of that. Like you think you're just having a good time. And there's an argument to make. Like for a certain period, it can be just fun.
Yeah.
It is a good thing for you. But when you're doing it consistently and it's kind of getting like almost like it's now a habit for you to just go out and drink and party and all that kind of stuff, then it's kind of affecting, well, it's definitely affecting your whole week, which is then in turn going to affect your whole future. And people always say, yeah, I'll do that in the future. I'll do this in the future. I'll start a business. I'll be okay, et cetera, et cetera. But if you don't think about it, you can just continue to follow those habits that you've built. And then before you know it, you're 35 and you're a little bit fucked.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I just posted that thing on my Instagram story about Neil deGrasse Tyson. It was like talking about last week's podcast about the death and how death can actually be a good thing, because you can't just constantly say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Because if you live forever, you can say that and you'll just sit on your bed and potentially do nothing. You have that, potential incentive. There's no urgency. So, like that's something to really think about. Like, hey, one day you're actually going to die. You can't just keep on saying like, oh, I'm going to start the business tomorrow. I'm going to take my life seriously tomorrow. Because we know people, well into their 30s, 40s, 50s even, and they're just stuck in that trap. You only live once, and I'm going to put it off until tomorrow. And, they really regret it once they start to find out. And I've actually seen it personally with, a little bit controversial, but like with a lot of females. I found, just in my life, it's an anecdote, but they keep on putting it off. But what they're actually thinking deep down is, hopefully I can find a rich man to solve all those problems, and I'm back on track again. So then they dig the hole so deep that now they have to focus on their beauty and, looking really fit and all of that to then attract the wealth. And it's tough because I've seen some of them then hit the old age inflection point and they won't admit it to themselves. And then they're just wiped out and they got nothing going for themselves.
The problem is that sometimes works, doesn't it? It's like that sometimes is not a bad business model. Because if you're fit enough and you're good looking enough, some dirty man will give you just enough.
Yeah, that's why it's good to be a super ugly male. She motivates your son. That's why I don't mind carrying around an extra few kilo. With extra motivation, boys.
We were talking about in the last podcast where if you're like a popular kid in school, and like everyone's telling you how great you are, then you really go on to achieve nothing later on in your life because you've had that dopamine hit from that young age and you get that sense of entitlement.
Yeah.
So if you are an underdog, or if people, don't see you or notice you, that actually pushes you even more to do something different in life.
Sure.
I feel like each one of us in this room has had that experience, which is why we want to be different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably a bit of that, isn't it? Like people are still trying to be the popular kid. They want to be involved with the parties and all of that.
Yeah.
That's making them feel, a part of it. But we're the next level. We're like, man, we don't want to be a part of it. We want to be in our dungeon grinding away to build that better future. So we get that sense of pleasure out of it, that we're actually on the right track.
How bad is it when you go and see people from school or something that's still living in that school mindset? Oh, it's horrible to see.
Yeah.
It's really, really bad to see. It's really,
but like,
you feel sorry for them.
With your example, Dylan, like you really switched your mindset when you went to Bali for the first time. Well, you went there when you were in your teens, right? But you decided to go back to Bali for your schoolies because you had that initial experience when you were 14, 15?
Yeah, 14, 15, yeah.
Yeah, so I think what people are lacking when they have the YOLO culture and they just want to party and live in the moment is they lack what you had, and that was perspective. So when people want to party all the time with their friends, it's like they are in a bubble and they don't know anything outside of that bubble.
Yeah.
So if you have that
Yeah.
perspective, and which is why we always say when you finish your VCE, take that gap year and actually go travel,
Yeah.
because then you get perspective of the world,
Yeah.
and then you realize, oh shit, this is actually what's out there in the world, and then that kind of makes you grow up quicker.
Yeah. I think because, like, to explain it as well, like, for me, it wasn't like I had the perspective when I was 14, 15. I had a little bit of it, but I just wasn't that wise yet. So then when I went on schoolies, I did go just because I thought, hey, it's going to be a better time than Australia. I thought my dollar is going to go a lot further in a different country. And man, it's a different country. It's completely, completely different to Australia. I didn't want to go anywhere within this country. But then it was while being there, then it opened my eyes and it was like, totally changed my perspective on the spot. And then it was no longer about the partying and schoolies and all of that stuff. It was, really, finding out what the locals about, how they live their life and all of that. So I wasn't that wise to,
But you were-
choose to go there.
But you were curious and you wanted to do something different.
Yeah. I always want to be different because
yeah.
I'm just like, you look around yourself. Why would you want to be the same as everybody else?
Exactly, man.
And the cool thing about your story was that, like, you went there with your friends, but then you kind of left your friends to be with the locals.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that was very wise for your age, man.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone,
100%.
I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah. It was
I
a
was
tough
that age.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But how often do you guys go to like Coles or something and you just observe people and you've observed them in the city? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes I like to get an apartment in the city and just look down like over like Southern Cross Station or something, and you see everybody. They're like ants.
Yeah.
And, they're all carrying their briefcases in their suits and they're just like robots and they keep on going.
Mm.
And you're like, why would I want to be like that?
It's
Yeah.
like a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you're looking down, you're like, in Sam's analogy, like, you're the RPG character. Like, you're the person who's like, I know it sounds like it is, but it's all about you.
Mm.
You're the main character, you're the main player, and this whole thing is built for you, and you're just like, what the hell is going on? It's like you've taken the right pill in the Matrix, and like, you're just seeing everything for the first
Yeah.
time. Like, does this make sense?
I think once you like get out of that bubble, like, again, to build on the RPG analogy, it's like you kind of see everyone as a non-playable character.
Mhm. Yeah, you do.
It's like you're the main character in a game,
Yeah.
and then you look, when you're playing as the main character, you'll have like the AI just doing its own thing.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like for us. Like, I don't know about you guys, but it feels like that for me.
Yeah.
Whenever I walk down the street, I'm like, man, what are these guys doing?
Yeah.
It's like the
Mm.
same thing over and over again. It's like they're programmed to do the same thing over and over again, just like a game. But then you're the only one doing something different.
Dylan's that old wise character sometimes in the back of the bar you go to, you like press triangles like, to find out what the hell's going on.
Dylan's like
Where
the
do I
side
go
quest.
next? And he's like, sure.
It's like the side quest that you like never, like, you don't even know about,
He's the
but
Easter
it'll
egg.
change your life.
Yeah, it's funny. But
Yeah.
I find myself people watching a lot, actually. I'm not sure if that's a good thing, but I find myself people watching a lot. And
Dude, I noticed I was doing the same thing as well. I
Yeah.
thought I was the only one.
no,
I think it's a good
I
thing.
do that a lot.
think
I
it's a
just
good thing.
observe people.
Mm.
Definitely makes you aware.
it gets me upset though, to be honest with you. Like, it hits pretty hard because, like, well, what's that quote? If you're not doing something different, or if you're not being told you're stupid, or you're not being ostracized, then you're not doing anything different, which means you're not doing anything worth of value
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, to understand that, to then actually be able to do something different, you look at the people who are not, and I think I just feel bad all the time because, like, well, us three specifically, we've been gifted so much knowledge,
Mm.
worked a decent amount of decently hard for it, but we've been helped so much, been given so much. It's like, that person who's sitting on the side of the street, or the person who's walking with their briefcase, the young mum with 3 kids. What if they got this knowledge at that age that I did? It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Comes with a lot of responsibility, those perspectives, I think.
Yeah,
For
I think
sure.
the other thing about Bali is like not even about like the third world stuff. It's more like along the lines of like in Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Work Week. He talks about the concept of the new rich, which the concept is you want to find a way to make US dollars online. Can be through a business, can be through whatever it happens to be. For us, we chose investing, and we thought it was the best option for us. And then you go to a third world country where the US dollars are so powerful. And then you can have, like pretty much you can live a life of luxury for it's like minimum wage back at home, literally. And so that's what happens in Bali. Like you go around, there's a lot of Aussies, a lot of foreigners. They got businesses there, and they just seem so much happier. It seems like they've really hacked what it is about life, and it even relates back to Australia and the real estate mindset. Like everybody, the Australian dream is to buy a house. Like, all right, you buy the house and you get locked into the 30-year contract. You're locked into that, and you got the mortgage and all of that, and then you just don't have the freedom unless you work way harder. You work making so much more money that the mortgage is tiny. It just seems like it's not a very good deal. And then you got these fellas over in Bali, they don't own a home. They're making a decent amount from their business and all of that, and they can make less, but their quality of life is so high.
There's a TikTok trend at the moment going around that talks about the new rich.
Right.
And they don't say that specifically, but they say the new rich doesn't value Lambos and nice houses and all that kind of shit. They value their time. They value the freedom to be able to do whatever they want with their time. Yeah. It's just like a guy snowboarding down a mountain or some shit. It's a good aesthetic. Yeah. But I'm not, obviously my algorithm is going to be different to a lot of people's, but yeah, it highlights the point pretty well. Yeah. This is a really good video.
Yeah, I've seen something similar to that. As like one person, you got two people, they're both spending like $2,000 a month, right? But one is spending $2,000 on fun, doing the YOLO culture, and the other person, they look like on social media, they're so extravagant, they're having all this fun, they go on the bars, all that stuff. Then the other person is spending $2,000 as well, but just onto their little app on their phone, investing in the stock market. Which one's actually more successful? Yeah, the other person, he's sacrificing, he's probably got ran down clothes and all of that stuff, but he's getting ahead. 5 years' time, he's going to reverse.
Oh, and in a big way, not in like this guy who was investing now gets to go out and, spend money at the clubs or all that kind of shit. He gets to go spend big money, or the same amount of money, but he gets to do it in a smart way in a different country, and he has to live considerably and have a better quality fun. Yeah. Yeah. Like, dude, I don't know. It is not interesting to me. Like, even if I feel like going out and have a little bit of a party or a drink or something like that, I don't want to go to Melbourne clubs I don't want to go to anyway where there's some dude just
his jaw's going.
How are you, mate? How you
doing? On all the drugs.
He's just
do that really well, Doc.
That's a practice.
You get into character really well.
That's a practice, mate. So it's like, that to me is depressing as shit. I want to be with the boys. We've all just done some real good shit. We've worked our asses off. We've helped a hell of a lot of people. And then, all right, we got to take a week break or something like that. We go to Ibiza where it's like, we're chilling, son. Yeah. Like, it's proper good fun. It's high quality fun as well. Yeah. And I think people they don't sacrifice for that fun. They just want all of it now.
Yeah. What would you guys say was your turning point when you switched? Because we all were at one point in the YOLO culture. What switched for you guys?
I can go first. I know the answer was definitely Bali. Like my why when I traveled over there and got to kind of Dylan pretty much showed me around all the places, and there's a place called Double Six. I was like, dude, this is the funnest thing I've ever done in my life. It was cheaper than any fun I've ever had in my life, and like the quality of what I was doing was 10 times better.
What's Double Six?
It's like this. What would you say? It's like this big hotel, and then on the top floor is like this big
rooftop bar.
Like the whole rooftop is a bar, and you're overlooking pools, and you're overlooking like the entire ocean and beach and shit like that. And we went there at sunset, and we had an entire corner of this freaking rooftop.
It's the size of our podcast setup. Damn. So it's like you can fit like 20 people in there.
Shit. And there was literally just 6 of us or something like that. Yeah. Just vibing out to the music, having fun.
So you're telling me you get a whole cliff?
Yeah. Literally get a cliff, bro.
Right. And you know what's funny? On that, just a small tangent. We were looking at Airbnbs, right? Remember? Like we were all looking at Airbnbs together just to get inspiration of what we're working towards. And we were looking at Airbnbs in Melbourne, and we found what is the most expensive Airbnb in Melbourne in the city? And it was like $7,000 or some shit. Yeah. And it was like an apartment that was tiny, right? It was literally a dungeon in the sky, right? But the only thing going for it was overlooking the MCG. You can literally look into the MCG. Whoop-de fucking do, right? We put the same amount of money into Bali. Dude, We get an entire cliff.
You
get a
literally
whole
get a cliff.
Literally for $2,000.
Yeah.
The apartment in the city in Melbourne was $7,000.
Yeah.
For a fraction of the price, you get a whole cliff.
Yeah.
Overlooking a beautiful ocean.
She's like the size of the White House.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how big it is.
So how much did that cost? $200? What's more?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was
Cost
really cheap.
$200 or something like that for that experience. It was like the whole night or like
What?
a few hours and shit like that. Like I've looked in St Kilda, like if you can get, it's not even half the quality. It's like a few grand
Yeah.
to do the thing, right? So you mix in that high quality fun, and then you get the perspective of going to a place like Gili Trawangan where you get to see like true poverty for the first time, and that just knocks your socks off. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then you realize that if you want this and help those people, and in the real world, when I go back to my life, I'm kind of living two separate lives. Whereas like either, a few times a month I'll go out and spend a little bit too much money and party and stuff like that. But then the other times I'm pretty much grinding, working hard. It's like you're living two separate lives and it doesn't make sense. So if you want that life and you want to help the people, you have to go all in 100%. And that's the answer.
Yeah. That's the beauty of Bali, like you're saying. Like you can experience the luxurious lifestyle firsthand and live it. And then you want to crave that, you want that. So you're going to work harder to get that. But then, you're seeing that, like you're saying, Gili Trawangan, you're going to see the poverty. So you're like, oh shit, I got to work harder for that too. Now there's two things pushing you to work hard.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it doesn't feel real. Like I was always against like making a lot of money and all of this stuff until that, like, oh, it feels better. Something like why I want a big house. It's not necessarily because it's big, but when I feel like I'm in a closed thing, I feel enclosed in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I feel a little bit claustrophobic. Whereas like some of those views in Bali where you just can see as far as the eye can see, it just feels like you're on top of the world and you're creative, and I can write Instagram posts so much easier. I enjoy editing photos and stuff, pumping out content and all that more.
It's like a natural dopamine.
Yeah.
Natural drug
Mm.
that you can never die from.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's intoxicating.
That
I
sounds
think
ripper, boys.
Sorry, G, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying that sounds ripper. I can't wait to go to Bali.
There is something about having long views. There is
Yeah.
something to it
Yeah,
where you
for
really
sure.
do get a dopamine hit.
for
Yeah.
sure. I think like on that point where, you're saying that you experience the lavish king style lifestyle, right, in Bali for a fraction of the price. That's an inspiring thing, and that's a really, really good way of motivating yourself to actually change and work towards that. And then you also saw the poverty side, which is like another inspiring experience where it's like I want to get wealthy so I can also help in this area. I feel like many people they want to do the idealistic thing, which is I want to get wealthy so I can help. But when you work towards getting wealthy to help the poor, I feel like that's harder to do than it is to get wealthy for yourself.
In the beginning, for sure.
So I feel like if you can see both of those things through that perspective, that's way more impactful for yourself than for you to not experience that and just think in your mind, hey, I want to get wealthy just so I can help the poor. I feel like you're running up an uphill battle because eventually, because you haven't experienced that, you're going to run out of motivation.
Yeah, you have to experience it firsthand.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just a statistic. How often do we see people starving on TV and it says donate now?
Yeah, exactly.
And we can't be bothered donating.
Yeah.
But when we see it and there's an actual person, you can feel the pain in their eyes, then it's a completely different story. So you got to see it
Like
in
even
real life.
still, your origin story that we've all heard,
Mm.
so many times, and every time it gets more impactful. It's a
Mm.
beautiful story, but it's still vicarious. Like there's only so much you can take from listening to that story.
Mm.
Having your own experience, it's just that extra level, I think.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like that's not that those stories are not impactful, because they 100% are.
Mm.
But it's almost like those stories to inspire the thinking, or for you to have your own experience and see those things.
Yeah. And this is what I can't wait to do. Like once we've got the Bali Villa and Resort built one day in the future, that's our plan. Then when we take people on the tours, like we really want to take them to the villages so they can actually get that experience for themselves. It's going to be worth every single dollar. It will literally change their lives.
100%. 100%. And it's a shitload of fun as well.
Yeah.
But people don't think in those terms, do they?
Mm.
They don't think of like, oh, all of this can be actually a reality. You can have ridiculous amounts for yourself and also help thousands and millions of people. But they just make, unfortunately, and you know, lucky enough to be taught the opposite, but people just continue to make decisions and chase the immediate dopamine hits, and they end up getting themselves in like holes and they end up getting themselves trapped.
Let's speak on some of those traps. Like, what are they? Let's clearly identify what those traps are.
I think there's a lot of so like just social events that you don't have to go to, like trying to like, be a sheep for no reason. Is that you in traps? You're talking about like things you go to that just like keep you in that mindset, correct?
Yeah, just like traps that will set you back.
Yeah, exactly. So spending too much money or spending too much time at those events that you don't need to go to. Like, I know we've already spoken about many times, but we sacrifice a lot of those events, if not all of those events, for a certain period of time. We're going to any of them because they're, just, you know, they're not beneficial. They're not where we kind of wanted to go.
Yeah, because it all comes down to, you know, your weekend is your most valuable time you have, especially when you're on this journey. You got to use that time. If you're working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, you got to take those weekends and invest in yourself. You got to use that time to up your knowledge game. You got to use that time, you know, to with that knowledge, then you know where to invest your money. And if you're spending money, you're literally taking away from your own balance sheet. It's just an instant loss. And there's nothing wrong with going out and partying and all that stuff. We say that, but make sure you're actually doing it for yourself and make sure you actually want that, because, you know, like, there's nothing wrong with it. If you really feel down, then do it. It's a great investment to bring you back up to, you know, baseline. But you gotta really think, is this really helping you? Yes or no?
I mean, really ask yourself, like, are you enjoying this? Is this what you want? If it's not what you want, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
And at that age, you know, people are very influenced by other people, peer pressure. So, yeah, we can understand why you would get into that situation, but you should ask yourself that.
I think when I started thinking of like the downsides of going out all the time as well, it really made me like question how much I was going out and why I was going out and drinking so much as well.
Why were you going out and drinking?
I'd never considered the downsides. It was always like, oh, I'm going to have fun. This is going to be the best time ever.
That's a ripper.
Yeah.
It's a ripper point.
Well, as soon as you start learning that every dollar that you pick up off the ground or save and don't spend can turn into $9,100 in the future, you start to realize, shit, this bottle of beer, she's costing me 91 grand. She's a $91,000 bottle. She's pretty expensive, son.
Dude,
$1 a beer. That's in Bali, bro. That ain't here, bro.
One night of clubbing is not cheap.
No, $10, because $10 would be 91,000.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
$1 would be
Dude,
9,000.
one night of clubbing is not cheap as well.
Oh,
like, I don't know if you boys remember, but especially here, like, one night of clubbing is not cheap. Like, you go out, and then when you get drunk as well, you're just like,
Wait, what?
Way more than $100.
yeah, way more.
Way more.
What'd you say? One night at club?
One night of clubbing here is not cheap.
I know people who, and you can easily spend like $1,000 or some shit comfortably.
Seriously?
Comfortably.
On one night?
Easily.
$1,000.
If you're,
wouldn't say
Far out,
grand,
man.
if you're partying with all your other friends
Yeah.
and you're sharing out drinks and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
if it's like a big night.
for
maybe.
some people, other stuff is involved as well.
Yeah.
I can
If it's like
promise
a
you it's-
huge night.
I can
But
promise
like, dude, when you're drunk and then when you're at clubs, like, you're just flopping your card everywhere.
Oh, you
It's
know,
just
Put
like,
it
yeah.
on the plastic.
Yeah, literally.
Dude, it's so
You're
smart.
suddenly like a millionaire. You're just
know
like,
what?
yeah.
You know what? Like,
I'm gonna shout this guy a drink. I'm gonna shout that guy a drink.
I sometimes caught myself like way back doing this. I'm like, fuck. I don't want to look at my bill the next day.
Oh,
Yeah.
You think you are like flexing and shit because you can just pay for shit.
Yeah.
But mate, no one gives a fuck.
No one cares about you that
Yeah.
you gave them that thing.
Yeah.
They didn't think about you for a second while they were drinking that drink.
Yeah,
They're
literally.
sipping on that cocktail. I'm like, sucker. You silly fuck.
But that's the
Good
thing.
shit.
Like, the whole night, you're just stimulating yourself. Like you go in with the mindset, oh yeah, I'm gonna have fun. You don't think about the downsides, and then when you're in the night, you're all with your friends, you're having fun, and then you're stimulating yourself with drinks, and you constantly like feeling good and shit until the next day.
It drops like your ability to make that decision.
Yeah.
So the barrier to entry to buying a drink, once you've had a few drinks, she's negative 100, boys.
And then the next day you're like, fuck.
It's crazy.
But that's the thing as well. Like, people just keep coming back to us now. Like, we went and we spoke to all of our friends. Like, hey, this is the journey that we're going on. We did a little bit of the partying and stuff, and then how we're saying, hey, we want to go on this different path. Would you like to come along with us? And most people say no. Very few say yes. And then 5 years later, we're all starting to step away from our jobs. Geez, probably around the corner next year. Then what happens? Everybody starts coming back because they realize, man, we're still young. We're still practically the same boys.
We're the same age.
Yeah. There's no difference between 22 and 27. It's the same thing.
It's the same shit.
Yeah.
It's the same damn shit.
And that's always the excuse. Oh, but you're only gonna live once, and you're gonna be old.
Yeah.
You won't be able to have fun when you're old. Right. We're young. We're still young, son.
You know what? I actually feel younger now at 27 than I ever did in my life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, in terms of health, in terms of like mental health, physical health, just happiness in general.
Yeah.
I feel way more youthful now than I did when I was like 18.
Yeah.
100%.
Dude, I had this guy that I was helping with a meeting. And he sorry.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
I had a guy that I was helping with the meeting, and
What just happened?
So he's like 26, around that age, and he just felt like he sorry, I just zoned out completely.
So good.
Yeah, sorry, what were we talking about?
I was just saying
like,
how
youthful.
I feel youthful now at 27.
Yeah, all right. So yeah, sorry. He felt like he oh fuck no. Yeah, so sorry.
So
It's
good.
completely zoned out.
Wasn't he complaining that he was like feeling old now? He already feels old. He's gonna die tomorrow or something.
Yeah, he just he's like, so I was like, oh yeah, man, I was like trying to help him like understand compound interest and like invest for the long term. And then he's like he was like ready to start investing. And then as soon as he was like about to start, he's like, oh man, I'm like thinking like I'm too young right now.
Yeah, I remember this story you
Like,
telling me.
Yeah.
I don't want to like I could die tomorrow. I don't want to like
I don't want to sacrifice what I want to do now and stuff like that, and I want to live my life now and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That age-old argument, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck, sorry boys, I just zoned out.
So I think that's a bloody good lesson for everyone. It's like, I'm not trying to be perfect, but if so one of us zones out like that, like we will
It
relax.
happens all the time.
We will
Yeah.
wait, and
We're
until
keeping all that shit in there.
until G gets his G
Yeah,
It's an
I'll
organic
get you to chop out
conversation.
some of this.
G or us gets our things back. I think it's a teaching
Yeah.
point for a lot of people, because people always have to, or they see people on the internet and they think they're always right, but or they're always perfect and stuff like that. We don't claim to be perfect. We claim to be us, the best version of us. And sometimes we're like, oh shit, I was thinking about 9 different things. I forgot what I was saying.
Yeah.
You know what? That happens to everyone. And the cut versions that a lot of people get to see, that's not the real thing. So I think another value that we share is transparency and the real thing all the time. So that's not a bad look on you at all, G. It makes you fucking look even
I might
better.
get you to chop out one thing though.
What?
I'll tell you after.
But like on that, like with that guy, the 26-year-old,
Yeah.
I've actually come across a few people like that, and yeah, they say that well, what if I died tomorrow?
Yeah.
I would have lived a life where I'm not fully content. And to that, I would say you can't control that. So one thing I really learned from the movie Fight Club, especially in that scene where you have Tyler Durden, Brad Pitt driving the car, and then you have the other guy in the passenger seat, the main guy. And then Tyler Durden, like, he's obviously his conscious, right? He's telling him, mate, you're trying to take control of everything. Just let go. And once you let go, then you start to live
Yeah.
your life the way you should be lived.
Mm.
The probabilities of you dying tomorrow are so low.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to take control over that? Like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
You know what I say to those people? That
What?
they all every time they're like, "Oh, you never know, I'm gonna get hit by a bus." I'm like, "But do you understand skin of the game? Because if you understand skin of the game, I'm observing you right now. It doesn't seem like you have skin in the game because you should actually invest in fluoro clothes. If you're wearing fluoro clothes, you're probably not going to get hit by a bus anymore. So you're not taking it seriously,
Dude, this dude's playing
That's such a
4D
good
chess.
point.
you know?
He's playing 4D chess out here. That's mental.
So, like,
that's great.
I love to break down people like that.
You know the bubble
Uh-huh.
soccer?
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Why aren't you wearing a bubble
Yeah.
soccer
Yeah,
outfit?
I know.
Why do you leave your house?
And it's a cheap investment. You can buy fluoro for like $50,
That's such a good point.
you know?
That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember what I said to him. So afterwards I told him, I'm like, dude, let's just say you live to 80, right? Like you could live to 80. What are you going to do once you're at 80? Like, do you reckon you're going to regret like living every day? Like you're going to die the next day?
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's going to ruin your mental.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And are you even having fun? Like Sam said it before, it was like what you're doing day to day, like YOLOing, or you only live once. Like going out to the clubs, that's got to be shit time eventually. Like if you just do that all the time, just spending all your money and, you know, living like every moment's your last, that has got to be shit boring eventually.
You might be stuck in the vicious cycle. What is like the vicious cycle? Which is you work from Monday to Friday, right? In a job that you don't like because you're paying off things that you don't need, right? That you bought. Then on the weekend, you feel like, hey, this is the 2 days that I have for myself. So I'm going to live like it's my last days. So what do you do then? Then you decide to YOLO, have fun, party every single week. Then what happens? After that, on Sunday, you have a hangover, right? And then you look at your bank balance. Oh shit, I've lost like $300. And I can't even think because I'm in bed hungover. And then on Monday, you start again.
Yeah.
And then you repeat that every single day for many, many years. So where does that get you?
Talking about those materialistic items as well, people are buying them, literally just to get them to baseline. Because through Monday, they're okay.
Yeah.
Tuesday, they're lower. Thursday, Wednesday, and then so on. By Friday, they're practically depressed in a way. So then they're buying items to make them feel good again. But it's only temporary. Like they're not thinking, hey, if I save this money, I could get something really worthwhile. You know, like we're talking about, like with the big view or the big, something that is really impactful that you actually want.
What do they call it? Retail therapy? Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is such a
Some
bad
people,
term.
they need to literally buy something every week.
Yeah.
They have to buy one thing every week.
It's batshit
Yeah.
crazy.
Mm.
It's batshit.
But if you're in that vicious cycle, just being aware of it is like the first thing you can do to get out of it.
Mm.
Just be aware of what you're doing throughout the whole week.
Yeah.
And people will be like, "Oh, I don't go out much. I don't drink much." Mate, you're doing it every week. If you're doing it every week, if you're like, "Oh, I don't drink much. I only drink on social events." Mate, you go to social events every week. That means you drink every week. Come on, like
Yeah.
you're just lying to yourself at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the guys that are saying like, "Oh, but I might die, tomorrow," but what you actually are doing is you're reducing your life expectancy on the long term, guaranteed. You're just chipping away at that fella.
Yeah.
You were supposed to live to 120, but then you drank that much, you only got 80 years, son.
You're GG, son. You always were talking before about the justifying kind of having a break on the weekend or going out and partying on the weekend and stuff like that, and because you need it as a rest or to regenerate and stuff like that. A personal example for me is I remember like over justifying or like easily justifying, like lying to myself and being like, yeah, I'll go out with the boys because I need a break or some shit like that. Nah, you didn't need a break. Maybe you needed a break, but you needed a nap.
Yeah, sleep.
You didn't need to
Sleep
go
and
out and
rest,
have 14 beers.
Yeah.
You needed to go sleep. 'Cause if you don't know, like we said it in the podcast, sleep is actually good for you. And it's one of the most important things, medically speaking. So,
Prescribed from the doctor.
exactly. Get your prescriptions.
I'm gonna keep saying that every time you say, you know, anytime you say something health related, I'm gonna be like prescribed from the doctor.
Yeah. But I would definitely 100% in the beginning remember, you know, over justifying or thinking, shit, you know, I worked really hard this week. If I go out, you know, I deserve it. Mate, what'd you do? You work 40 hours at a normal job. Good on you, mate.
That's a good point, because if you're working 40 hours a week at a job, so is literally everyone else. So like, what extra thing have you done for you to get that dopamine hit on the weekend?
So I would even argue, even if you're in the grind, you're working 50, 60 hours, you know, you're doing that kind of work. If that's your goal, like your goal is to get financially free or just have a bunch of money, etc., whatever the goal is, it doesn't actually make sense to use going out and drinking as a regenerated thing. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Making it harder.
Yeah, because then, yeah, exactly. You're just setting your goal further back, which means you're never actually going to reach it, which means you're never going to be able to enjoy that time after you reach that goal, if that makes sense. So I think people have just got like their rewards maybe a little bit backwards.
One thing I definitely, sorry to cut you off, but one thing I
know,
I definitely noticed in my journey, like what switched for me was I realized my time was ticking, as in like I was just getting older every single day, and I felt like I wasn't progressing anywhere. And we talk a lot about time, and I feel like the youth, and we're talking like people, and we're actually talking people in their 20s, late teens as well, right? They could be like late 20s as well, these people. They don't value how much their time is actually worth. Once you value that, then I feel like you would not want to like waste your weekends. And what do we say? Like, if you're in your late teens, early 20s, we say get your first 10K as soon as possible. And why do we say that? When you get 10K and you have that invested by the age of 20 and you make 20% returns every single year for 50 years, without you having to lift a finger, your 10K by the age of 70 will be worth $91 million. So what we're trying to tell people is it's a race to get your first 10K. And why do we say that? Is because you're securing your future. You're securing your retirement. And once you realize, oh shit, my time is actually worth money in the future, my time is actually worth something in the future, guarantee you won't want to go out on the weekend.
Facts.
We've helped so many people like in their 50s and 60s, and they regret it. If they could go back in time and just save $10,000 and change their whole life, they would do it, because it takes 6 months to get 10K. You know, it doesn't take that long. 6 months of your life can change your whole life.
That's the barrier to entry to becoming like financially free. Maybe that's not the right term. That's the only thing. Get 10K invested as quick as possible. Now, sure, you got to make 20% a year, but there's vehicles for you to be able to do that. There's vehicles for you to be able to get 10% a year. You know,
Yeah, even 10% with the S&P 500, 10K is going to go a long way.
it's a little bit less money, but would you rather have a little bit less than 91 mil, or would you rather be living on your paycheck to paycheck when you're 50?
Yeah.
Pretty
and then
easy.
having to rely on pension when you retire and you're super.
Pretty easy
when you
answer,
retire.
I reckon.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, you're right.
the other thing as well is like talking about the race to 10K. There's a bit of nuance in there as well, because like if you've been going through a really shit time in school and all of that, then sometimes you may need to get it out of your system and have a bit of fun and all of this stuff. But there becomes a point where it's just like too much. You know, you can't be just having fun, you know, all the way into like 35 and all of this stuff. It just doesn't make any sense. So, you know, I'm okay with doing 1 or 2 years, start taking it seriously at 20. Then by 21, you got 10K. You know, it's still extremely early. But, you know, most people, you know, the stat is the average 30-year-old has less than $1,000, you know, to their name in Australia. Less than $1,000. That's nothing. You got 10K at 20, you're well ahead.
It entirely depends on, I guess, like what you want for your future. If that makes sense. I think I was talking to Marky about this on the podcast the other day, but it's like if you want to become the same net worth as Jeffy Bezos, like the required action is a hell of a lot more than if you want 5, 10, 15 mil for your retirement, right? So it's like, depending on what it is you want, it means you have to act a little bit differently. So, yeah, I just think people, I think a majority of the things we talk about, not just this podcast, but a few other podcasts, they are about people not doing the thinking to understand what it is that they truly want for, the rest of their lives. And I can promise you, as a personal example, and I'm sure you boys would agree, that any kind of period where you weren't going all in on this journey is because of that. You didn't have an idea of what it is you kind of wanted, or you didn't have a driver to drive you to what you wanted.
Or you didn't believe that you could do it.
Sure.
You don't value your own capabilities.
And talking about that thing about Jeff Bezos as well, like people don't understand how compound interest truly works, because if you're looking at $1 million net worth and $5 million net worth, it's actually practically the same net worth. Like if you, it's like sacrificing like $10 more, starting like 5 years earlier. It's just like little tiny differences. Like they're practically the same number. You adjust those little variables, you'll get you roughly in that same ballpark. Then like 10 million to 50 million, it's practically the same effort as well. Just thinking a little bit smarter, starting a little bit earlier. But becoming Jeff Bezos' net worth at like 200 bill, that's way bigger than 50 mil.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to put in a lot of work. But people don't realize, to get like 50 mil, you actually don't need to put in that much effort.
It's just time, right?
Yeah.
I say Jeff Bezos as I like to use for people the extreme example, because a lot of the times they want to be like Jeff Bezos or some crazy entrepreneur or some crazy businessman. I'm like, do you know how much it is required to get there? That's mental.
And odds you can be the best in the world, you don't have it going for you.
One of the greatest things that, or like, there's ever happened to me is to realize that I'm not going to become Jeff Bezos, boys. Because it takes that kind of pressure of trying to be the best in that specific thing.
You can be a politician, though.
It's not going to happen.
Politician.
Cheeky.
It's a bit of an inside joke here.
Politician's actually easy, I reckon. It's an easy career.
You just got to be morally fucked.
Even like Elon Musk with Tesla. Like Elon Musk compounds he only has Tesla stock, right? He doesn't have a salary. He just has stock, right? So he has like the ultimate skin in the game, where if he wants to get wealthy, he has to like perform well in his companies. And Tesla, it appreciates in value by like 40% a year plus, right? But many people, like, we could literally just buy the stock and also increase by 40% a year. But the difference in our net worth and his net worth is that he actually took on that initial risk of actually starting that business. And then because he took that risk and actually, took out debt, took out leverage to start it, that's why he has the reward. Yeah. And that's really why, like, he's compounding at 40%, we're compounding at 40%. We didn't take that risk to start Tesla. That's it.
Yeah, not a good risk for me to take.
And that
I would
comes
say
down
all
to
of us,
self-awareness.
Self-awareness, huh?
Yeah.
I got a question for you boys. We talk about like the weekend being the most valuable time to like level up, right? What does a good weekend look like for you boys, or a great weekend? What's a hardcore Headstart weekend?
I reckon for us, it's always like, hey, if you're working 9 to 5, all right, go really hard in your 9 to 5. Then you got to be tired, especially if you're working after when you get home and all of that. So then Friday night, really sleep in. Take the alarm clock off, go to bed nice and early, sleep in. And then Saturday, you can do a little bit of exercise, catch up with your diet and all of that stuff, recover, and then hit the books for a little bit, and then Sunday, I reckon that's your day. That's your day. You go really, really hard on the knowledge and you level up like crazy. You really, evolve and upgrade yourself into someone completely different. If you keep on doing that, roughly, it's very achievable. When the Saturday wasn't that intense, you slept in the whole day. You did a bit of health and exercise. You're not even doing books, just doing a little bit of it. If you can do that for 4 years, you'll be well and truly past the competition.
And that Sunday, you and G did a lot of these hero days. What did that look like?
Yeah, hero days, just be like, hey, we wake up at a decent time. Again, you sleep in a bit as well. Probably not going to sleep in as much as you did on the Saturday morning because you already had the real long one. But then, yeah, just sleep in a little bit so you're all refreshed, and then you have the ability to absorb the information from the books. And you might want to go somewhere. You might want to go to like a park or like the state library where it's a nice environment. Switch it up a little bit. We used to like the parks and stuff like that because, you get the fresh air and all of that. And then just hammer it out the whole day. And then maybe at the end of the day, you have a little reward for yourself. Hey, at 6 o'clock, I might, go out for dinner or watch a movie or something. Spend that $20 as a reward. But then be real. Only reward yourself when you actually did the work and you're actually proud of yourself. Like, did you actually do some special shit? Yes or no?
You being the mentee in that situation of doing those hero days at that time, like how did that kind of really, really help you? Those hero days, how beneficial were they for you?
I think seeing Dylan studying like 10 hours a day, like that at the library, just really motivated me and wanted me to and helped me just go harder and at the library in my work.
Yeah. So like I'm sure you'd attribute a decent amount of like work ethic and stuff to like those days. Because on a Sunday, I'd say, me included, a normal mindset. Sundays are just an off day.
Sunday's Lord's Day.
Yeah, they're just a Netflix and nothing day,
Yeah.
So to be able to kind of flip that mindset, and I'd say, that really kind of sets you up to be able to work in other areas a hell of a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like we talk about a lot, like building that momentum. I'd say working your ass off on a Sunday helps you build that momentum going into the week to then go and do your 9 to 5 to the best of your ability, similar to what we're talking about in the last episode with the quotes. You want to work for your boss with the same zeal as you would work for yourself.
Yeah.
It's like if you work for yourself hard on that Sunday, then you're going to go into your 9 to 5 and grind it out just as hard.
For sure.
If you're working like 40 hours a week, and let's say that drains you every single day from Monday to Friday, that means after work, you're essentially just recovering and then preparing for the next day, right? So you're not really doing much work. So you're still working 40 hours a week. Then Saturday, you're waking up a little bit later, right? Sleeping in, doing your exercise, recharging. You can at least do 5 hours of study on Saturday, right? And then on Sunday is your day where you go large and you do at least 10 hours. So that means on top of working 40 hours, you're still consuming 15 hours on yourself, right? Which is better than zero.
15 hours is a lot.
And that is so possible. It's so doable.
Yeah.
That extra 15 hours. And then like you do that every single week, and over the course of a year, you're going to be a freak.
Yeah.
Like we were saying in the podcast about knowledge and audiobooks, even if you just went an hour a day on average, 7 hours a week, you will get ahead. 15, you can just pump it out on the weekend, and everybody has the excuse, I've got no time and all of this. It's easy to find time.
It's not time, it's priority.
Check your screen time, man. How much time you been spending on TikTok and Instagram?
Yeah.
They're researching business because they're an entrepreneur or some shit. You're looking at Instagram. Shut up.
And like after you do I've noticed this, like after you do the 15 hours on the weekend, guarantee you every single day after work, you'll want to do something too.
Oh, yeah.
So then you're like slowly increasing it to 20 hours. And then it's just maintaining that 20 hours extra. Just keep increasing a little bit.
It becomes a habit.
Yeah.
Try and get as much of it in as possible.
Yeah.
Then there's the nuance of like trying to find every little hour. Actually, like there's a limit, because then you start mentally deteriorating, so you can't actually get the information in properly. But that's probably
once you feel that though, I think that's time when you should
rest,
hit the brakes
100%.
a little bit. That's when you can do something different. That's when you can go out, recharge. When you hit that point, if you're that type of person that needs to go out and be social and recharge, do something different at that point.
Just nap.
Sometimes the other thing about like reading books for the whole entire day that I like is sometimes like the way to trick my brain is I'm saying, hey, I'm getting old very fast and my days are going by like really quickly. So if it keeps going like this, soon I'm going to be dead because it's just going by so fast. So, hey, if I read a book for the whole entire day, that day feels like a week in the moment. And that's actually a good thing because you're getting more time.
Wow.
So it's perspective of the time.
It's a day to slow down.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, fuck, I was with myself. I was with the book. You know? And now it's like, I got a feeling like you die. Everyone can die at 80, but how do you make it feel like you lived 5 times longer than the average 80-year-old? And I think it comes down to doing things like this, doing things where you have no phone. Literally, I hear successful CEOs just sit in a blank room for a whole day so they can think. That will make you feel like you're living longer. Then also, I'm a big proponent of the next one, which is literally traveling and doing mini holidays like every quarter or so. Because then you're switching up that environment. Whenever you go on like a holiday and live somewhere else for a month, it does feel longer. Sometimes it can feel shorter in the moment, but when you look back on it, now you've got a separating chapter. Oh, this was the time I was in Japan. This is the time I was in Vietnam. Instead of, this was the time I was working in Australia. And it's just one massive chapter and it just sinks down to like one little tiny skip over. So it's like, how can you trick your brain to have that perspective of time?
I think it relates back to the hard work podcast we were talking about, where people just do work because they're doing work, and they just get trapped in that and just continuously doing the work and doing the work and doing the work, and then by the time you realize that you haven't actually created anything or any value, and you've lost so much time by just doing and doing and doing.
All of a sudden you wake up, you're 60 years of age.
Yeah.
You're like, where the hell did my life go?
And if like, I fear for people who have their first major perspective shift of just, maybe let's use poverty as an example, like a poverty perspective shift when they're 60. Like, imagine retiring. You actually got to retire in that, those golden years that people talk about, which don't exist, but you actually ended up retiring and then going traveling at the age of 60. And for the first time, or 70, whatever the retirement age is, for the first time you've seen like how the world actually works. Like, your head's been down, you've been living in Australia, just doing the thing, working. And for the first time when you're 70, you go to Bali, you go to Gilichwang, and you see the poverty for the first time. What is that like? Surely you realize you've just lost 60 years of your life. You're like, what happened?
Yeah. Could be potentially living a lie.
That would
You got a false sense of reality.
Just sounds like a nightmare.
It honestly does. It sounds like a good story for a movie.
Stephen King movie.
That's pretty intense. I think the other thing as well is, like, say if you're partying on the weekends and all of that, if you got a lack of sleep, it's literally going to result in a lack of motivation. The more rested you are, the more motivated you are.
Yeah.
Like we always talk about in the willpower podcast as well. Like, how come everybody that's on a diet is like, in the morning they're motivated about it, by the time they go to their job and all of that, and they're on the driveway back from home, stuck in the traffic, screaming at the world, got road rage and all this shit, they end up in Kentucky. Every single time they end up in Kentucky. They do.
Just accidentally. It's like you're just yelling at the guy who cut you off, and then you're like, ah! Can I please have a zinger burger? You're like, what the fuck?
That's what happens.
Shit.
Kentucky, if you want to sponsor us.
So it's so important. Get that sleep going so then you're actually motivated, pump the shit out.
That was one of the biggest mistakes I made.
If you're tired on Friday and then Saturday, by the time it comes down to Sunday, the hero day, you're not going to want to do any of it. You're going to want to rest then because you went harder on a Friday night.
It's been a couple months since I've like fully left my job. And like last week, I picked up my mum from her job just to like drop her home. And I got stuck in traffic. And I'm like, damn, no wonder people are mad. No wonder people are like, depressed. Imagine sitting in traffic just to go to like a job. I'm like, fuck, I don't miss this at all.
It's the worst, man.
Yeah. Not having to drive is, I think, something that people are going to like, everyone who's like, self-driving cars, I'll never give up my freedom or my right to drive and stuff like that. I'm like, nah, you don't get the games. You don't know how good it is to not drive.
It's way better.
It's way better.
So good.
That's what I loved about Bali. Like, you can get a Uber for like $5 an hour. So
that's pretty good.
It feels like a self-driving car. It's practically the same price.
Yeah.
So,
you're going like 30 though, right?
Huh?
You're going 30 Ks?
Oh, 30 Ks an hour. Yeah, you're really slow. The traffic's really bad there, but at least you can get work done.
Yeah,
so you're not wasting time.
For sure, yeah. I actually like going slow in Bali.
Yeah,
It's
you can
nice.
look out the window,
Yeah.
observe everything.
There's so much going on.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I 100% agree. 100% agree about that one,
Yeah.
boys. What else we got here?
Do you want to talk about your quantified self movement, Dylan?
Yeah, so this is a movement that it got pretty big the last few years or so, the quantified self movement. So this is just pretty much thinking about yourself as like an athlete. So you want to acquire like all this data about how your body works so you can find out how you can perform to reach your goals. So we always say, hey, we're not marathon runners, we're not bodybuilders, we're not trying to be the best at that, but what we are trying to be is the best mental athlete. So what does that entail to, So it entails a lot of sleep, it entails having a decent amount of nutrition, it entails not becoming too overweight, entails taking care of your health to a certain degree. Like, it wouldn't make sense for us to start running a marathon every single day and training for ultra marathons, because that's literally hurting our ability to consume more knowledge, to consume more information. All of that is going to set us back from our goals. That's not our goal to do that. Maybe one day, like, or maybe there's a time where we want to take off from work and we just want to do that purely for fun because we've achieved this lifestyle. But in the moment and in the grind of it all, we really need to think about, like, how is everything around us affecting us? So I think as a easy way to explain it as well is just like understanding, like, how come Fitbit watches became popular or Apple watches became popular? Because people want to know, are they well rested? It will tell you, hey, what's my heartbeat at now? How many steps did I do in the day? That's like the absolute basics. But the next level is like to really have like a backlog of all of this data in your mind. And you can write it down on an Excel sheet as well if you want. But it's like, hey, if I sleep in for 9 hours, how do I feel? How do I feel the next day at 9 a.m.? How do I feel at 10 a.m.? How do I feel at 11 a.m.? How do I feel at 12? And then so on and so on and so on. And you'll find out, if you sleep in, you're probably going to get more work done the next day. Yeah, you'll lose a few of those hours in the morning, so you have less total hours to work, but you're probably going to pump out more and you probably have the ability to read faster. So this always weigh on my mind when I first started. I'm like, oh shit, I'm losing 3 hours by sleeping in. But then I'll say to myself, oh, but I'm going to read this next line of this book to the best of my ability, to like doing it as fast as I possibly can without sacrificing quality. So I truly absorb it. And then like when I was reading the books, like I would always like read a line and like, I would ask myself, did I do it like to the best of my ability? And I'm like, the way I talk to myself in my brain's a bit weird, but I'm like, oh yeah. All right. Then I pump out the next one. Oh yeah. Next one. Oh yeah. Next one. Oh yeah. Next one. Oh yeah. I'm getting these little dopamine hits after every single line.
Yeah.
So that's how I could pump out a whole textbook. I can pump out, I haven't done it in a very long time, but I could pump out a 400-page trading textbook in one day. Because I'm like, every single time, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm getting these dopamine hits. I'm like, no one can do this. No one can do this. Who can do this? Only me, only me, only me. I'm the best. I'm the best. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. That's what's going through my brain, like the whole time. I'm just pumping it out, So I'm just like, and it's going with a bit of ego and stuff like that. But I think it's a healthy amount of ego, and I'm doing what I actually want to do. And I'll say those things like, am I actually doing what I want to do? Yes, I want to be here pumping out this book so I can be successful, so I can have the life that I want. So that's a little bit of a tangent with that. But like going to the quantified self movement, it's also relating to like even say like caffeine. It relates to anything. Hey, if I have this many milligrams of caffeine, you can say, just keep it simple, cups of coffee. If I have 1 cup of coffee, how do I feel 30 minutes after, 1 hour after, an hour and a half after, and track it. And you might find, like, now, I know people say you crash after coffee, but what do you actually feel like? You might say, hey, at 30 minutes after coffee, I feel like a 10 out of 10. 1 hour after, I feel 9 out of 10. After that, 8. And then, by 2 p.m., I'm feeling like a 3. But when I don't have coffee, I never hit 10 out of 10 the whole entire time, but I maintain an 8 or a 9 the whole entire day until 6 p.m. So which one's better for you? It's like little things like this, or, hey, if I go a week without having any Godzilla juice, how do I feel? Another one that I used to do when I was going hard on the hero days was I wanted to be a raw vegan by day and a meat eater and a carbohydrate eater by night. So as an example, I found that, hey, if I'm eating raw fruits in the morning throughout the day, my brain felt alert. And some people, oh, but you're only having fructose, you're only having sugars and all of this stuff. I felt pretty damn good. And I bet you I did a lot more work than you could do in that time. It worked for me. So I pump it all out that whole day. And then by nighttime, then I would have the big heavy meal as that reward at that restaurant. Then they'll naturally make me feel so tired and go to sleep easier. So it's like always experimenting with things like this, experimenting with different types of diets, keto diet. What does it do for you? Is it good or bad? Like how many grams of protein, how many grams of fat, how many grams of carbs, and really understanding all of this. So it also relates to when we go on the bike rides, we talk about this all the time. Like a professional athlete, they need to know their body so well. They need to know, how many milliliters of water to drink per 10 minutes or per 20 minutes. They need to know how many grams of carbohydrates. Like the consensus with the cycling community at the moment is your body can only absorb 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour, depending on your height. That's for the average male. So you don't want to go too far past that because it puts the digestive system under stress. If you put the digestive system under stress, you'll start to lose energy. So you want to tap up exactly. So like everyone does, like they find out exactly what the right amount is for them. They test it. Then they get that data in as well to test it in real life. And you see. And same with the water, same with everything. So we can do this with every aspect of our life to help us achieve our goals.
So this one is it to optimize yourself?
Yeah, to optimize yourself so you feel like you're on steroids, but naturally, to achieve your goal. Like a bodybuilder, they have a completely different diet and way of life compared to a cyclist. We're a mental athlete. We need a radically different diet and way of life compared to those guys.
So what actionable steps for a person starting out would you say? Like, what are the basics? Like, what is the 20% that'll give them 80% results?
Yeah, I'll start looking into like people like Dr. Rhonda Patrick. She really helps advise, like Joe Rogan on his podcast. She's got a lot of good information. I'm not going to tell you like all the science stuff behind it, but like some of the things like vitamin D gives you major benefits. Like I found personally, supposedly for like someone that's quite fair, they need roughly about 20 minutes in the sun a day, like across their whole body. And 20 minutes is like the perfect amount where you get your full amount of vitamin D in and you're not really getting burnt then. But the positive as well is then you get a tan. As soon as you start going over the 20 minutes, then you start burning. If you start burning ever, you ruin your tan. So like, yeah, personally, I always make sure I get 20 minutes of sun. Doesn't have to be exercise. I do like to do exercise as well during that time. That's a great one. Understanding how your body reacts to things like caffeine, how it reacts to things like Godzilla juices, sleep for sure. Yeah, those are the big ones.
One of the things I've just realized in this specifically is there's a lot of, there's a few areas I've definitely done this, but for some reason just didn't attribute it to everything. And I was just like made to maybe reiterate your point of like it actually is with everything. If you think it's not, then you just don't understand it well enough. Like it is with every single little thing, every little 1%er. And that's honestly something I've just again realized in the last week or so when we were talking about it. That was
I like to talk on that point. Like one as a basic one is, say for me personally, I don't like to do heavy weights in the morning because then I feel tired for the rest of the day. I've messed around with doing small amounts of cardio in the morning as well. It's a bit half. Like I've tried saying, like I tried doing a 4K in the morning, but then I feel like, I still get a bit tired in the afternoon. Not too bad. Try doing a 10K. I'm definitely tired by 1 p.m. Try doing a marathon. Literally fell asleep on the couch. She didn't work. Then I started to do like, all right, 4K, I'm still getting tired in the afternoon. How about I do 3K? But then it ruins my psychology because then I'm talking to my head, oh, Dylan, you're a little bitch.
You're only doing 3K.
You're only doing 2-3K. So then now what are we doing?
Yeah.
We're trying to switch it to doing a long bike ride at night, roughly around 5 p.m. I've noticed personally, if we do the bike ride at 6 p.m., get home at 8, I actually can't fall asleep at night for me personally. So I'm still alert and I'm still awake. But if I go 5, get home at 7, then having that 2 hours, I can fall asleep.
I may think as well as if you're riding with the boys as well, because you're a considerably better rider, you get less fatigued, I would say,
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
definitely me. Still nearly killed me the other day. So it's like the minute and I say that because the minute I get home, I'm like, GG boys, I'm tapped out.
Yeah.
We did the same thing.
And I've noticed as well, say if I push myself really hard, like say like the marathon where we did, yeah, the sleep's really great, but I'm still not a 10 out of 10 the next day.
Oh yeah.
We're tired.
Oh yeah.
So that's too much.
It's a little bit of like 10 hours of sleep's not going to help you recover entirely from a marathon, is it?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So yeah, it's all of these things that constantly add up to you being the most optimal version of yourself. And even
I just wonder, like on the point where you said you don't like lifting weights in the morning or doing a little bit of cardio in the morning because you feel really tired in the afternoon. I wonder how many times like you've repeated that to actually to get that data, because I was like that too, but then over time my body became used to it and I actually feel way more energetic now because I lift really heavy in the mornings and I even do some little bit of cardio.
Yeah.
I'm really good like in terms of energy because I kept doing it over and over again and my body adapted to it. Yeah. So like, would you say that could be a reason why? Like just keep...
Could be. Maybe there's not enough data points. I always make sure there isn't like, at least 50 days of data, at least minimum, if not 3 months, 6 months or so. Like, I tried, I try most things for like 6 months. But for me personally as well, like say with that exact example, I feel like I'm using, like I know my brain is operating at the best in the morning. So I don't want to use that time for anything other than, knowledge and work. And then when I'm tired, I'm like, oh, I'm tired anyway. I'm either going to just sit here and do nothing, just browse on the internet, or I could use this time to like do something physical. So I'd rather use my weaker times for the physical stuff. But yeah,
I share a similar thing. I think everyone trains for different things as well. So you train to lift, like obviously look at you. You're a fucking savage and you look aesthetically quite pleasing.
Thanks, Doc.
It's all right. No worries. You can give a tense if you want.
There you go,
There you go.
boys.
I was like, I think that may be more of a focus for you as well right now, right? Like you would hold more focus to working out at the moment.
Well, I think it's the perspective of being in lockdown. For me, like I have to exert myself physically every single day, or else I feel like I'm being lazy, and then that affects me mentally to not perform at my highest level. Yeah. So to lift heavy in the gym, that sets me up for the whole day. To know that I've done something like strenuous. So now I can work on with my mind now.
Yeah. To that point, like maybe that is a great use of your time then.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that we talk about all the time is like we are all different. We are like Samo drinks black coffee. I can't have decaf because it hurts me. Like, you know what I mean? Like everyone is completely different, and everyone here would probably have macro the same amount of sleep, but sometimes, I've found recently wake up a little bit later. I feel much better than waking up a little bit earlier. So it's like, depending on who you are. And I think finding your own optimization is kind of the key there, right?
Yeah.
That's why it's self-movement. It's yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. Everybody's got to figure it out for themselves.
Good point.
All right, boys.
I think the last point we have is we want to reiterate the point that there is nothing wrong in taking a gap year. If you are, just finished VCE and you don't know what you want to do in life, that's normal, completely normal. Highly recommend taking a gap year and trying to figure out what you want to do before committing, to like a 4-year degree where you are going to take out a HEX loan, and then figuring out midway you don't want to do it. So just take some time off, get some perspective. It's very hard to travel right now. You can't really travel, but you can still do other things in a gap year. What are your points on that, boys?
Not on that specifically, but maybe an ending. Like as a caveat to kind of all of everything we're talking about is like most things in excess are bad, but sometimes like a little bit is not so bad. So important to stay true. Like, I like having a beer now and then. That's part of me. But going out and partying every week, that's where it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? So it's like, I thought adding that caveat to a lot of people was like, it's again, it's about you specifically and not over justifying the big weekend or the big and kind of party and shit like that. But it's not like, oh, you can't have a beer, or you can't go and see your friends. You can't do that. You can't. Zero. It's like excess is fucking really bad.
Yeah. Or you can do whatever you want as long as it's actually helping you.
Probably a better way to say it.
So you just be aware of that. Do whatever the hell you want to do.
That's the best way to put it, I think.
But just know, is
Yeah.
this right for you? Yes or no? Is this truly helping me get what I want? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, I said 3 paragraphs. So you said it in a sentence. Well done.
That's about it, boys.
That's about it. Guys want to wrap it up?
Hey, let's wrap her up, boys.
Go on, Doc.
Back her up. Oh, you want me to do the thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, my bad. If you found any value from this, which I'm sure you did, please like, subscribe, click the notification bell so that you know when we post. Make sure you share this with all your friends, because what we're doing here is meant to help. Like we said many times, we're building an ABC structured podcast. So go back to the beginning, learn from the beginning, and go all the way through. On that note, pack her up.
Pack her up.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Pack her up, sons.
Pack her up.
Thank you for listening.